Hey there, deep divers. If you're tuning in, you've probably felt that nagging feeling of laziness at some point.
Oh, yeah,
We're going way beyond the usual self-help pep talk today, though.
definitely.
We found this source, and it takes a totally different angle on things.
Interesting.
It argues that what we call laziness is often society's fault,
Oh, wow. Okay.
not ours. So get ready, because we're going to unpack why you might feel trapped
Yeah.
by these societal pressures.
Yeah.
And most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
I like that angle.
It really is like a refreshing perspective, right?
It is.
Instead of blaming ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to look at how the pressure to be constantly productive
Right.
is actually counterproductive.
Yeah, in the long run.
It's like we're all stuck in this invisible race, right?
Totally.
Our source calls it a pressure cooker of expectations,
Okay.
where we're constantly bombarded with messages about hustle culture,
Yeah.
side hustles, and optimizing every waking moment.
I mean, it's everywhere.
It's true.
It's like you said, a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
You can't escape.
It's interesting, though, how we rarely question that whole always-on mentality.
It's true.
Think about it. Even machines need downtime.
Exactly.
They need to avoid overheating and malfunctioning.
Yeah, to function properly.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I remember I felt so guilty taking a Sunday afternoon nap once.
For real.
Shouldn't I be using that time to meal prep for the week or learn a new language or something?
Right. Like there's always something more you could be doing.
Exactly.
Always.
But this source really made me rethink that whole, rest is for the weak idea.
Yeah.
It's not weak at all.
Not at all.
In fact, it's essential for our well-being
Mm-hmm.
and, ironically, for our long-term productivity, too.
Right.
Rest allows our minds and bodies to recharge so we can actually function at our best.
I think people forget that.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do we escape this pressure cooker?
Right.
It feels like it's everywhere.
It really is. And our source points to social media as a major culprit.
Oh, yeah.
That's like keeping up with the Joneses.
Amplified by algorithms and filters.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like we're all comparing our behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
to everyone else's carefully curated highlight reel.
Right.
No wonder we end up feeling inadequate.
Exactly. You see these perfect versions of people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget
What?
that everyone struggles,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has bad days,
Yeah.
and no one's life is actually that picture perfect.
I think that's a really important point.
It is.
And the comparison game doesn't stop there.
Ugh, no.
Our source also dives into this intense focus on career success
Okay.
of the ultimate measure of worth.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not climbing the corporate ladder, society brands you as lazy,
Right.
even if you're passionate about other things.
Yeah. And that's where this narrow definition of success can
Okay.
become really damaging.
Definitely.
It makes people feel like they're failing if they're not chasing a traditional career path,
Yeah.
even if they're super engaged.
In other meaningful pursuits.
So what happens if you're passionate about something that doesn't fit that conventional mold?
Exactly.
What if you'd rather be a potter than a
Right.
CEO?
That's where we need to start questioning these assumptions
Okay.
about what a successful life actually is.
I like that.
What if those feelings of laziness towards a traditional job are actually a sign
Okay.
that your energy is being misdirected?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
It's like your soul's trying to tell you, hey, this isn't the right path.
exactly. It's about recognizing that our energy
Mm-hmm.
is a precious resource.
It is.
And if we're constantly forcing ourselves to
Right.
do things that don't align with our values,
Uh-huh.
it's no wonder we feel drained and, yes, lazy.
It's trying to run a car on diesel when it needs gasoline.
Oh, I like that.
You might get it to sputter along for a while, but eventually it's
Yeah.
going to break down.
It's a great analogy.
So before we jump to conclusions and beat ourselves up for not being productive enough, we need to ask ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
am I truly lazy or am I just on the wrong track?
That's such a powerful question.
It is, and it leads us to the next layer of this whole laziness myth.
Oh, okay.
The idea that we internalize these societal judgments.
We absorb them.
Yeah, and so we're not just feeling the pressure,
Mhm.
we're actually starting to believe it.
Exactly. And that's where things can get really dangerous.
Okay, so we're going to dive into that more in just a moment, but first we're going to take a quick break.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we were talking about this idea that society pressures us to be productive all the time.
Right.
But now you're saying we actually start believing it.
It's like we absorb those messages.
Yeah.
Think of it like a seed. We hear these messages about hustle culture and never giving up over and over again.
Yeah.
So they basically take root in our subconscious
Wow.
and start to shape how we see ourselves.
So it's not just that we feel the pressure.
Right.
We actually start to judge ourselves when we don't live up to these impossible standards.
Exactly. And that's where that term internalized depression comes in.
Okay.
I know it's kind of a complex idea,
Yeah.
but it means we absorb these messages from society and then we start to believe them,
Right.
even if they're not good for us.
So instead of realizing that these expectations are unrealistic or even unfair sometimes, we turn that judgment inward and say, oh, I'm lazy.
Right.
Or I'm unmotivated.
It's like we're unknowingly continuing the cycle.
The cycle of pressure.
Yeah, by becoming our own worst critic.
Whoa, that's a lot to think about.
It is a pretty mind-blowing realization, right?
It is.
It's like we're trapped in our own minds.
Yeah, with all this negative self-talk.
And the source emphasizes that,
Right.
that this pressure we put on ourselves can be way more powerful than the external pressure.
So how do we break free?
Well, first you have to be aware of it.
Okay.
You're not the only one who feels this way.
Right.
It's not a weakness to struggle with these things.
It's like you said, it's a systemic issue,
It is.
not a personal one.
Exactly. And once you realize that, you can start to challenge those negative thoughts.
Okay.
And try to be kinder to yourself.
So instead of beating ourselves up for like taking a break
Yeah.
or pursuing a passion that might not be productive in the traditional sense, we can start to reframe our thoughts.
Absolutely. Instead of saying, I'm lazy,
Right.
you could say, I deserve to rest
Yeah.
and do things that make me happy.
That's a big shift in thinking.
It is, but it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's like we're taking back the power to decide what success really means.
Exactly.
And speaking of redefining success,
Yes.
our source actually had some really interesting points about that.
It's all about figuring out what really matters to you.
Okay.
Success doesn't have to be what society tells us it should be.
So we should focus on what makes us feel happy and fulfilled.
Yes, it could be spending time with family and friends or being creative. Or maybe even just living a life that feels authentic to you.
It's about breaking free from those comparisons.
Yeah.
And making a life that feels good to us.
Exactly. And the source even suggests that when we do this, we might be surprised by how much we can actually get done.
That's because we're energized by what we're doing.
Right. We're not bogged down by all those negative feelings.
It's like that laziness was actually misdirected energy.
It was just waiting to be channeled into something you actually care about.
It was our inner compass
Trying to guide us.
to a better path.
And when you finally listen to that inner voice, that's when amazing things can happen.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We talked about that pressure cooker of expectations.
Oh, yeah, all those messages telling us to be productive all the time.
Exactly. And how those messages can actually become like internalized.
Right, we start to believe them.
And then we talked about how important it is to like redefine success.
On our own terms.
But now I want to hear from you. What's resonating with you the most from all of this?
Yeah, what's really standing out?
Have you had any like aha moments?
Like maybe you're realizing some of your goals aren't actually your goals at all.
Oh.
Maybe they're society's goals.
Right, or like your parents' goals or something.
Exactly. Or maybe just like a vague idea of what you thought you should be doing.
Or maybe this whole conversation has like given you permission to prioritize rest without feeling guilty.
Yes, like go ahead and enjoy that Sunday afternoon nap.
Totally.
And deserve it.
You don't have to be out there like conquering the world every second of the day.
Exactly.
Maybe you're even feeling inspired to finally dust off that passion project.
Ooh.
You know, that thing that you've been putting off?
The one that lights you up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you've been telling yourself you're too busy
Right. Or too lazy.
to actually pursue it.
I've been there.
Whatever it is for you.
Yeah.
We really hope this deep dive has helped you to challenge those negative, lazy labels and start living a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling to you.
Remember, true productivity isn't about doing more all the time.
Right.
It's about making sure that what you're doing actually aligns with your values.
So ditch the guilt.
Yes.
Embrace your own rhythm. And remember, you are not lazy.
You are not.
You are simply reclaiming your time and energy to live a life that actually matters to you.
And as you go on this journey of figuring out what that looks like, we want you to consider something.
Okay.
What if instead of chasing success, as society defines it, we all tried to live a life of significance?
A life that makes a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. On ourselves and on others.
What would that look like for you?
What would you prioritize?
If you weren't bound by all those expectations.
What would you be doing if you really believed that rest was just as important as hustle?
And that following your own passions was the most important thing.
Something to think about.
It is. We'll leave you with those thoughts, deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.